Hi guys, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a full stack web development workflow more secure. Now what we're going to do is to basically follow a web development workflow, and I'm going to show you how to make that more secure. So this is the outline of this video. First, we're going to build a simple app using an Express server. Then we're going to build a secure Docker image. Then we're going to test that Docker image by running the Express server through it. And lastly, I'll demonstrate how to deploy this onto Docker Hub. So we're basically going to push this whole application onto Docker Hub. But the main highlight of this video is showing you how to make this process more secure. And to do that, we're going to be using a platform called ChainGuard. ChainGuard is the sponsor of this video, and ChainGuard is basically a platform that provides secure Docker images. So as you can see here, it says minimal adding 0 CVE container images to run your workload. Now this 0 CVE is the main point of this video. That basically means using this image is very secure and has 0 vulnerabilities. We're going to talk more about this later in this video. So ChainGuard has a lot of Docker images. If I come in here, you can see that they have images for the Go language, Python, Redis, everything, even databases. But the one we're going to be using in this video is Node. I'm just going to search Node right here. So this is the image we're going to be using in this video. So there will be a link in the description below that will bring you straight to this page. You can also sign into ChainGuard just to explore it and to get updates for upcoming changes, vulnerability notifications, and more. But I'll put a link that brings you straight to this page so you can follow along easily with this tutorial. Now, once again, thank you to ChainGuard for sponsoring this video, and without wasting any time, let's get straight into it. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a basic app using an Express server. For us to do this, you need to make sure that you have Node installed on your computer. So I'm going to drop the link in the description below to install Node, and it's going to bring you to this page. So what you can just do is to download this nodejs application, and it's just going to install that for you. Now once you have that done, the next thing we want to do is to make sure you have Docker installed. Because we're going to be using Docker later in this video, you need to make sure you have it installed. So I'm going to also drop this link in the description below. So if you're using a Windows or a Mac, you should be able to install it on your computer by just downloading it from this page. So this page is the page for Mac, but if you come right here, you see Windows, and if you come right here, you see Linux. So make sure you have those two things installed, then we can move forward. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is to go into VS Code. Right here in VS Code, I'm actually going to open up a folder. So I'm going to say File, Open Folder, and I'm going to go look for a particular folder called Simple Express App. I'm just going to open this up. So this is just a folder. You can create any folder and open it up on VS Code. So this is what I'm doing right here. So as you can see, it has opened up that particular folder right here. Once again, this is just any folder. You can go ahead and open up any folder. The next thing I'm going to do is to initialize a new Node app. Now I'm just going to open up my terminal right here by dragging this up. And all I'm going to do is to say npm init -y. And if you come here, while that is running, you're going to see that a new file called package.json is going to be created. And this is basically going to have all the information about whatever application we are building. So I'm just going to close this down for a bit. Actually, I'm going to leave that. And right here, you can see that this is the package.json. It has the main file, everything you need. The next thing I want to do is to install Express. Because we are using Express in this project, I need to do npm install Express. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it properly. I'm going to hit enter. Now this is going to install Express for us into this particular project. And as you can see, that has been installed. And now if I come into package.json and I go under dependencies, you can now see that Express is there. And it basically installed it and created this node modules folder, right? Now that is good. Now that we have Express installed, I can now create a new file. And this file, I'm basically going to call it server.js. Now this is where I'm going to create my Express server. I'm just going to close that. Let me drag this a little bit. And right here, I'm just going to I have a very basic app that just returns a response saying the port that this application is running on. So what we're going to do now is just to say, first of all, I'm going to use strict. And the next thing I'm going to do after that is to import the express library. So I'm going to say constant express equals require express and semicolon. Now I'm going to set some constants. So constant, I'm going to set the port that we want to run this on. I want to run it on port 8000. You can run it on a different port if you want. And the host is just going to be local host. So I'm just going to say 0.0.0.0. So this is the host that this server will be accepting connections from. And the next thing that I'm going to do is to create an instance of an express application. So now I'm going to say constant app equals express semicolon. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to basically define a route for the root URL, right, and send a response to the client. And I'm going to say app. Now using that instance that we created up here, I'll say app.get slash. Now this slash right here just shows that this is the root URL. And I'm going to say req and res, just like this, equals, then greater than sign. We basically have the curly braces, and right here we're just going to send a string as a response. Now this string is just going to say, hi everyone, this application is running on this particular port. So let's say response.send. We'll just say hello, this is running on port, let's just use the $, curly braces, and now let's just use this port, which would be 8000. So once again, this is just a very basic app. This is not the main purpose of this video. The main purpose of this video is to show you how to secure your application or make your full stack web applications more secure. So I'm just building this app just as a reference so I can show you how to secure your application. So now that this part is done, the next thing that we're just going to do is to start the server and make it listen to the specified port and host. So right here, I'm just going to say app.listen to this port and to this host, just like that. Add the semicolon. Then let's just log a message in the console indicating that the server is running. So to do that, we'll just say console.log running on, and let's just do something like http:// let's say the host. So then you can check this in the console if you want, and $, port, just like this. And right here, once again, we need our semicolon. Now this part is very optional, but I just like doing this for automated testing. But we can just say if process.env regression testing equals true. And let's just say process dot exit 0. Good. Can add a semicolon right here. And this is just basically saying if the environment variable called regression testing is set to true, then the process exits. So it's just useful for automated testing scenarios. You don't really need to put this part, it's very optional. But now we have this basic server running, right? So now what I want to do is to come into package.json, and right here instead of index, I'm just going to say server, just like this. I want to use server instead of index, and I'm just going to close this right here. I'm going to save the package.json, and I actually want to also add something manually. So right here where we have script, I'm now also going to say start. And let's just say node server.js, just like this. Make sure we have our comma so we don't have any error. And now we can save this, right? Now this is good. And now we can just test this out by coming up here and saying node server.js. Oops, we shouldn't have done that. Let's cut out the server. Let's run that again without the slash. So now you can see it's running on this port. What I'm just going to do is to come and open up a new tab. I'm just going to say local host port 8000. As you can see, let me just increase this. It says hello, this port is running on port 8000. Good. Now we know that that is running and that is working. I'm just going to exit out of that particular server. So good, this is working. Now we have successfully created this particular Express app. The next thing that we're now going to have to do is to then build a secure Docker image. And we're going to do that right now. Now the next thing that we're going to do is to create a new file right here. And we're going to call it Docker file. Remember in the beginning of this video, I said that you should make sure that you have Docker installed. And once again, this is the URL or the link to do that. I'm going to put that in the description below. Now, I've created this Docker file, and what we're going to do now is to basically create a Docker image, right? And we're going to use the ChainGuard nodejs image. So right here, this is the ChainGuard node image, and I'm going to tell you why I'm using this instead of the official nodejs image. So Node.js has their official Docker image that you can use if you're trying to use Docker to do anything with your Node.js application. But the problem with that is there is a lot of vulnerabilities in that particular image. So the official Node image wasn't optimized for security, and that is a huge problem. But the ChainGuard image is optimized for security. This is the page, and if I come into vulnerabilities, you're going to see that it says this image is free of CVEs. Now, CVEs in the Docker world, it basically means vulnerabilities or security risks. Now, this image is free of that. This is why we are going to use this to make sure that our application is more secure. If I come into versions, there is a lot of version right here. There is latest dev. There is quite a lot, but we don't need to worry about that. What we need to worry about is this particular link right here. Right, so let me show you how to use this. Now we're going to come into our Docker file and we're going to say from, and we're just going to come in here and copy this particular link just like this. So cgr.dev/chainguard/node, and this is using the ChainGuard node.js image, right? And we're going to come here, and the next thing we're going to do is to say env node_env equals production. We're basically setting an environment variable called nodeenv to production. So this is commonly used to distinguish between development and production environments. Now the next thing we're going to do is to say work there/app. Now what this is doing is that it's setting the working directory inside the container to /app, right? So all the subsequent command will be run in this particular directory. So all the commands we're going to write after this is going to be run in this particular directory. Now the next thing we want to do is copy, and we're going to copy some files from here, from this application, into /app, which is the environment, the Docker environment that we're building. So I'm just going to say copy equals node :node, and we're going to specify the files we're copying. So we only want to copy package.json and server.js, and we're going to copy it into /, right? Good. Now we're copying only package.json and server.js into that. So as I said, we're just copying those two files from the local machine, which is this application right here, into the working directory in the container. That is what we're doing. So the next thing that we're going to do is to say run npm install. So this is basically just going to go into the package.json, come under dependencies, and whatever library or package that we're using here is going to install that for us in our Docker environment, right? And let's just add omit dev. Now this is a very good practice. This is because right here, this doesn't really apply to this application. So if I come back into package.json, we have something called dependencies. Now every single package in here is going to be installed into this environment, and that is what the dependencies is for. This means we need this for the production environment. But there's also something else called dev dependencies. Now these are the packages or the libraries that you only need for your development environment, right? And the problem with this is that since this is only needed for development environment and not for production environment, if you have all of that here and you come here and run npm install, it's just going to install every single thing into your production environment. But once you have omit dev, this basically means only install these dependencies into the production environment and not the dev dependencies. Now I hope that makes sense. So once again, we are not really using that here because we are building a very basic application. But in case you are building something that you have dev dependencies, this is good because it's going to omit that in the production environment. Now the next thing we want to do, and the last thing actually, is to say cmd server.js. So this is the final command, right? Saying cmd server.js, and this just is a command to run when the container starts, right? So once the container is started, this is the command that is going to be run. So in this case, it runs the nodejs application, right, while executing this server.js file. That's what it does. So we've basically done this, and I can save this right here. And what we need to do now is to come into, I'm just going to swipe up, creating a new terminal. And now I want to build this Docker image. So before you can do anything, you need to make sure that Docker is installed and Docker is open. So if I come here, you can see that this is Docker desktop. I've installed Docker on my laptop and I have also opened it. So Docker has to be open and running for you to be able to build your Docker image. So now what we're going to do is to say Docker build, and we're just going to say /t, and now we're going to give it the name of the app. So Simple Express app. So this is the command to basically build out the Docker image. It's very important that you get this particular command right. And actually right here, before T, you need to add a full stop. So just like that, and hit enter. Now this is going to build out this Docker image for us, and we're just going to give that a couple of seconds to run. So you can just cancel this. Good. Now as you can see, this particular Docker image has been built successfully. Now if we come into Docker, in containers, if I come into images, you can see this image called Simple Express app that we built 2 seconds ago is now there. So now that that has been built successfully, the next thing I'm going to do is to actually test this out by running this particular Docker image. Now I'm going to say Docker run 2 -rm -it -p and 8000 colon 8000, and then the name, which is Simple Express app. So this right here is what we need to basically test out this particular Docker image. And now I'm just going to hit enter, and this should tell me that it is now running on port 8000. I'm going to copy this, come back in here, I should just hit refresh and it should be running. Good. As you can see, it's running because right here you can see that is running successfully. So we built out this Docker container after building our application, and it is very secure because we are using the ChainGuard node image. Now ChainGuard doesn't just have only node. If I come back in here and I just go into directory, you're going to see everything they have. As you can see, they have a lot, Python, databases, CI/CD, everything you need. Right here, I can just even search Python on its own. As you can see right here, we have Python. So they have for every single application that you're trying to work on. And now that this has been done, the next thing that we're going to do to complete this development workflow is to then deploy this onto Docker Hub. Now we are going to push this to Docker Hub. So if you don't know what Docker Hub is basically a cloud-based repository where Docker users and partners can basically create, test, store, and like distribute container images. There are several use cases for this, or several key purposes for this. Like some include image storage and distribution, collaborations, webhooks. There's so much, right? So I'm just going to show you how to push this to Docker Hub. Then you can do whatever you want with that. You can even deploy this onto other platform like Heroku from your Docker Hub repository. So let me just show you how to push this on there. Now the first thing that we need to do is actually quite easy. We just need to make sure that we have a Docker Hub account. So go to hub.docker.com. So once you go into hub.docker.com, it's gonna show you like a home page. I already have an account created and I've logged in. Make sure you have an account before you can move forward. Now that you have an account, I'm just gonna quit this. But once you have an account, you can follow along. So now I'm gonna come back in here, and what I'm gonna do is to log in right here in my terminal. So I'm gonna say Docker login. So as you can see, it's asking me for my ID. So my ID or my email address and my password. So now I'm just going to log in. So that's going to take a couple of seconds to log me in. And once that is done, you should see. So as you can see right here, it says login succeeded. Good, that is done. Now the next thing we want to do is to tag the Docker image. Very easy. I'm just going to say Docker tag. The name of the image is Simple Express app, just like this. And you're gonna have to put your Docker Hub username. My username is just my name, just like this. Then slash the name of that particular image again. Paste that. Just gonna bring this like this, just like this, and you're gonna hit enter. So now that has been successfully tagged, and now you can push it. So I'm gonna say Docker push. So Docker push, I'm just gonna say your Docker username slash the name of the image. Hit enter. As you can see, that is doing its thing. Gonna take a couple of seconds to push. Now we need 2 more to push. 2 has pushed. We need these 2 more to complete. Now let's see. Let's give that a couple of seconds. So as you can see, this has successfully been pushed. And if I come back in here into the Docker Hub dashboard, I'm just gonna hit the refresh button, and this is gonna refresh this page. And instead of just seeing this, now I'm gonna see a list of the repositories that I have, and this new repository is gonna be part of it. So let's give it a few seconds to reload. So as you can see now, it says Tomitoko/express simple express app, last pushed 1 minute ago. Now we could just also even open that to properly see this particular image, and you're going to see all the information of this image. So general tags, builds, collaborators, webhook settings. So right here you can see this is a tag. This tag is just latest, the default one. And right here, as you can see, everything has worked successfully. It's basically push this onto this tab. If you want, you can give it the description, category, and all of that. but you don't need to do that. But if you want to, you can do that. And yeah, so everything here has been done. And if you want, you can even go ahead and deploy your application onto deployment platforms like Heroku, Kubernetes, DigitalOceans, and applications like that. Now, I hope you enjoyed everything we did in this video, and I basically showed you how to secure your web application. And what we did was we built a simple app using an Express server, and we built a Docker image using the ChainGuard secure image. And once again, ChainGuard has images for basically everything that you're doing, right? Not just nodejs. So they are for Python, they have databases, every single thing. There'll be a link in the description below where you can go ahead and view all of this. And after that, we then deployed or pushed this particular image onto Docker Hub. So this just shows you a complete development workflow from developing on your computer to into production level. So I hope you understood everything we did in this video. If you did, please don't forget to click on the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.